Hi everyone, it's Elaine Guinn, and this is an episode of In Your Neighborhood. Today I am with Joy Harter, and we are here at Belle Trace, and this is a conversation between us.
Yes, it is.
We're gonna talk.
Okay.
So, Joy, you are the executive director of Belle Trace.
Yes.
And how long have you been here, and what do you love about your job?
I have been here at Belle Trace. This August will be 14 years. And I love that I have a career where I get to the privilege of taking care of people and interacting with incredible residents who live here and to make a difference in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's unbelievably rewarding. So,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, as part of my In Your Neighborhood series of vlogs that I've put together, I've also, and I've shared this a couple of times in my other vlogs, that I know a lot of people, and I love to share my people with the community, because I'm always shocked when I meet someone and they don't know someone else, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to meet because this person is so awesome, and of course I just think you're awesome, and
Thank you.
And so I wanted to share some of your awesomeness with the world. And would you be open to telling your story about how you broke your leg and
Oh gosh.
put you on the
That
spot?
story.
Yeah. I think it's an awesome story about you.
Well, so this was how many years ago now? 7 years ago, and my husband decided that he wanted to get into motorcycling, and he bought a motorcycle, bought a Harley, and I decided, well, if my husband's going to own a Harley, then it just makes sense that I would know how to ride a Harley as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we took the class together, the abate class,
Mm-hmm.
and turns out that in the first day of the class, when we were actually out on the field, I had a little accident on the course because a person in front of me went down on their bike, and I was so enthralled with them, instead of thinking of braking, I kind of went boom into them. So I ended up breaking several bones, and yet even after that, I was the next day came back for more, not realizing at that time that I had broken bones, and just thought, I'm going to get back on this bike and I'm going to finish the course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, turns out that the instructors didn't think that was the best idea, since I was in pain and I was a little bit traumatized from that whole experience. Anyway, that threw me and took me off course for quite a while, until I decided, probably about 8 or 10 months later after that I wasn't going to be defeated by my defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And we rented or purchased a small bike for me to practice on, and then I took a class again, and I got my motorcycle's license shortly before my 50th birthday. So yeah, and do enjoy riding. My husband is much more of a rider than I am, but it was something I definitely enjoyed, and felt like I overcame a fear that I had.
And that's what I loved about the story, is that, you had this thing happen, you didn't let that get you down, and you got right back on it.
I did.
I just think that's so awesome. I saw you guys once, this has been a few years ago, but I saw you guys on 37, I think, or somewhere. You looked like you were coming back from somewhere. So I'm like, oh, there's Joy and Greg.
Yep.
So
something we enjoy.
So yeah, what are some other things about you that that you think listeners might be interested in knowing?
Well, Rick and I, we 2 years ago moved to. We used to live right downtown in Prospect Hill, which we loved being downtown
gorgeous
people.
House too.
Thank you. And we just reached a time. Rick was retiring. And I think we're just ready for a change, without there needing to be an explanation, other than let's change things up. And so we did, and we moved to a place off of 446 where we now have 25 acres of our own forest. And I absolutely relish living in my own forest and being able to come home at night and just breathe the air that is ours from our forest. And it's really relaxing and therapeutic
Yeah.
Because one of my new therapies is when Rick builds a bonfire in our back area, or I walk through the woods with my dog. There's no better therapy than that. So
Yeah.
I really love that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
after a busy day at work, being able to go home to a sanctuary is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
love being in nature, and I love all types of creatures. And yesterday I went on a nature walk, and we found a garter snake. I stopped and took pictures. I just think all creatures are amazing.
I do too.
And I love hummingbirds and birds in general. And I'm a birder. I think people are a little surprised. A little plug, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with Steve Hicks' book, which is it's natural places in southern Indiana. It's an amazing book, and it has all of these where you can find certain birds, or where you can find maybe deer antler, or where you can find different things. It is the coolest book ever.
Wow.
So you might enjoy that since you like nature, but I love being out in nature. I just think it's so calming, and it gets you back into your center. And
It absolutely does. I don't think there's any better grounding and balancing that you can do. And they say that being around the trees is therapeutic. It is, and I believe it 100%.
Yeah, there's science that
there's science
like your
that.
body gets in tune, gets vibrating this healthy,
vibe.
So you want to hear the kind of funny thing about me? I'm originally from Indianapolis, and before I moved down here, I did not know what a morel mushroom was.
I didn't either. I'm from New York, so
mushrooming.
What's mushrooming?
And so I come here and I'm like, what is all this mushrooming stuff? What are people doing out looking for mushrooms? But I think it's awesome. It's now whenever I'm out, I'm looking, and it's fun to hunt and see if you can find things.
I know.
And it's just funny. But I thought I was the only one.
You're not. I'm from Woodstock, New York, so mushrooms have a different meaning to me than
they
do.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Woodstock, New York.
Yeah.
Totally different meaning.
Totally different meaning, but not anything that I've ever tried, mind you. But it's just that's funny.
I wouldn't judge you if it was. Yeah.
Anyway, but I've been here 30 years now, which surprises me. This is 30 years that I lived here in Bloomington, and I just love it. I met my husband here, and my sister lives here, and my parents now live here it'll be 11 years this year. They moved here from New York, so
wow.
The Cons are here in Bloomington, and we love it. So.
Oh, it's a beautiful place. What do you love most about Bloomington? I mean, if you could pick,
there's
top two, three,
there's
maybe.
a lot to love. There's so much to love. Just the culture of Bloomington. Obviously, Indiana University attracts so much, and to think that we have access to world-class performances and programs and lectures and just here in our own backyard, that's amazing. Unbelievable. But the wealth of social services and nonprofits and civic organizations, and the fact that we know each other initially I think through Rotary, and so I'm a big Rotarian and believe in the local and global communities and enriching them as much as possible, and so I get to do that through Rotary, and I think there's just so much of that in this region, and I love all that. I love it.
Me too. One thing that I noticed when I moved and I just wanted to pause a moment, but I'm a Rotarian too, and Joy is my sponsor, so she's the person who introduced me to Rotary, and I just love it. I love being a Rotarian. So
Me too.
But another thing that I noticed when I first moved here is that and what I love about Bloomington is as I'm walking through the grocery store, there are people stopping and having conversations about food. And these aren't things that happen in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
And so what's an interesting thing is the culture, you listen, you do catch conversations.
Sure.
And those do plant seeds. So not long, into my time here, I moved here in 2009, And I'm walking down just Kroger, and someone is talking, do you know if this is organic or if this is, like people are really conscious about food, and they're very conscious about the environment. They're very conscious about what they're putting into their bodies and how. And so this culture, though, it spreads.
Yes.
Because it took me about 2 years. I mean, when I came here, I was still eating like fast food and like, doing the whole, and I started to become more aware, and like you're reading articles in the newspaper that talk about, the importance of, only 30% of big box, stays in your community, and if you buy local, that goes back into your community.
Right.
And so I started really trying to be conscious and deliberate about how I spent my money, and so that is one of the things that I love about Bloomington is that everywhere you go there are these conversations happening, and people are open to that, and so not so much necessarily with locals all the time, or which I'd like to see that spread. I'd like to spread that.
Yes.
Because I think that it's important,
Absolutely.
to have that, but eating well and recycling,
being healthy and being well, and I think that's a big component of Bloomington, and just a very, what's the word I want? Just mindful, thoughtful people who care, as you said, about the world, care about Bloomington. So there's local consciousness as well as global, and I think that makes me proud to live here.
Me
makes
too.
me really proud.
And I also, when I was interviewing Charlotte Zitlow the other day, which will be an exclusive interview because it's a little longer than my typical time, but and the part and role that she played, along with some others in changing that culture in Bloomington
she's huge.
in 1971,
Yes.
and I was really honored to be able to interview her and to find out and learn more about the shift in Bloomington from the 60s into the early 70s, and carrying that history on. That capturing oral history is also something that's really important to me personally, and sharing histories, our personal histories orally, because you sometimes have a really hard time capturing that in words.
Yes.
I'm in the process of writing a book, and I've mentioned that I have a publisher with interest in publishing it, but they would like for me to build my audience, so I'm working on that. But so I get it, that it's really hard sometimes to capture how rich history is, and that's why I like having these conversations in our neighborhood with people, because my hope is to share that, with others. And so it's amazing what Charlotte and others that were involved during that time did in changing the whole culture on some levels to be what it is today. And it was a very powerful story to hear how one person can make such a difference, and and that's something that I want to spread too. I want to mush that all over the place.
One person, it only takes one person to make a difference in the life of someone else. And you and I have talked a lot about how every person, you and myself, we have our own stories, and they're all so worthy of being told, and don't realize the impact that they can have on other people when you just tell the story.
And that's what my hope is with this series of vlogs, and I already have interviews scheduled with all kinds of people from all different walks of life, because I love to meet people, and I love to hear their stories, and I just love to share that with others.
Yeah, that's great. That's very cool.
Well, we've come to the end of our time, or close to it.
Okay. Wow.
I thank you. I usually try to keep these around 15 minutes, but I thank you for taking time.
My pleasure.
Is there anything
Elaine.
else you would like to share, or anything come to mind? Because it's all perfect.
No. I wish you well, and I thank you for including me in this
I'm honored
as your
that
circle of friends.
Yes, I'm honored that you let me interview.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Happy to do it.
All right, well, thanks. And until next time.